Hey, Holy Readers, this is episode 25 of Holy Holy, and I hope that you've been reading and praying and that God has been speaking some amazing things to you. So let's talk about the reading from June 17th through the 23rd. This is going to be 1 Kings 22, so we finish up 1 Kings, 2 Kings 1 through 12, 2 Chronicles 18 through 24, Psalm 82 and 83, Colossians chapter 4, so we finish Colossians, and then 1 Timothy 1 through 6, so all of 1 Timothy. So getting back to Kings, 1 Kings 17 through 2 Kings 8. This is really Israel and Israel's kings versus the prophets. And remember, the prophets are going to hold Israel and their leaders accountable for the covenant that they've made to Yahweh and whether they're faithful, and the idolatry and injustice in the land. So we are tracing the kingship in the north and the south, and it goes back and forth through about 20 kings. And the author is constantly evaluating each of these kings, whether they're faithful to Yahweh and if they're dealing with the idolatry and injustice in the land. So 0 good kings are found in the northern kingdom, and 8 are found in the southern kingdom. So the prophets are calling for faithfulness to God, faithfulness to the covenant, and Elijah and Elisha are the 2 prominent figures. And Elijah, at the end of his life, is taken up in a fiery chariot, and he gives his mantle to Elisha. And I was reading this morning about how Elijah, he parts the waters, and that should remind us of Moses and Joshua. And then Elisha, when he picks up the mantle, also parts the waters. So they're all prophetic leaders, prophetic figures. So Elisha asks for a double portion of the spirit of Elijah. And this is really cool because Elijah is recorded to have performed 7 miracles. And then Elisha is written to perform 14 miracles. So in all, though, the prophets are unable overall to turn Israel back to Yahweh. They're not able to do that. And Israel falls further and further into idolatry. So 2 Chronicles chapter 1 through 36, the whole book, these focuses on the kings of Jerusalem. And this is the Davidic line that they're focusing on. The northern and the southern kingdoms, they're divided after Solomon's death. And this is what we're seeing. There's 2 types of kings: those that follow Yahweh and are successful, and then those that rebel against Yahweh and face destruction, failures, difficulty, and all of those things. This should really be a call to you and I to look at these 2 types of kings and decide what type of person that we want to be. Do we want to be faithful to Yahweh in his covenant, even though that's difficult at times, but then to receive blessing and success, or to stand in opposition to God's ways and God's plans for us, and then ultimately endure hardship? It seems like it's an easy answer on the surface, but you and I know that at times it is difficult. But when we stand in faithful covenant to Yahweh, then God stands faithful to us and defender of his people. So 2 Chronicles chapter 20, I wanted to highlight this beautiful story. Jehoshaphat is looking at an impossible situation. It's a vast, vast army of people. In verse 12, he says something beautiful. He says, "We don't know what to do, but we look to you." And maybe today you're in a situation where you say, I literally just don't know what to do. It could be a financial situation, a work situation, a family situation, and you just throw up your hand and say, I don't know what to do. But today, oh God, I just look to you. And God answers Jehoshaphat. He answers him. And he says in verse 17, let's look at verse 15. "Do not be afraid or discouraged because of this vast number, for the battle is not yours, but God's." Verse 17, "You do not have to fight this battle. Position yourself. Stand still." Boy, I believe that is a word of the Lord to you today. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. He is with you, Judah and Jerusalem. Do not be afraid or discouraged tomorrow, go and face them. The Lord is with you. And what I want to tell you today, friend, is the Lord is with you. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Another beautiful part of this story is it says that they went out singing. And when they gave thanks to the Lord, saying his faithful love endures forever, God began to turn it around and they plundered the enemy. So sing your victory today. Sing your victory. It reminds me of the song, "This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you." So sing your victory today and see the victory of the Lord unfold in your life. Let's look at Psalm 82:1. So this verse says, God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. So we've talked about this a little bit before when we talked about Psalm 89. And Psalm 89, 5-7, it says, "Let the heavens praise your wonders, O Lord, your faithfulness in the assembly of the holy ones." So this assembly of the holy ones, this term here, in the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. This is this idea of divine counsel, the divine counsel of Yahweh, where Yahweh is seated as the God of gods, the King of kings, the Lord of lords, but he has this heavenly host of beings that carry out his plan. We see this in Job when the accuser comes to the Lord. We see this in 1 Kings 22. We'll talk about that in a second. And then Daniel 7:10, the court sat in judgment and the books were open. And then we see this in a lot of other places, this divine counsel. So this is a term that Hebrew Bible scholars used for the heavenly host. And they administer the affairs of Yahweh and his cosmos. So I want to note, though, that just because there's a presence of a divine council and God is seated among them, that does not mean that Israel has this idea of plurality, of this pluralism, where there are multiple gods and God is just one of the many. No, no, no. God is the creator from which all of the other divine counsel emanate from. He created them all. He is unique and he cannot be compared. And he is not equal to the rest of them, but far above the rest of them. Okay. But in 1 Kings 22, 19-23, this was in our reading today. This gives us some good context. Yahweh had decided what was going to happen to King Ahab. He was going to die. But Yahweh presents this to the divine council. How is this going to happen? And one of them steps forward and gives a plan. And Yahweh says, yes, let's do that. And then it's carried out in that way. So a great book. Oh my goodness. A great book on this is The Unseen Realm. The Unseen Realm by Dr. Michael Heiser. Get that book. It's fantastic. So let's talk about 1 Timothy really quick. Paul sends Timothy to confront the leaders in Ephesus. And chapter 1 is Timothy's commission. Chapters 2 and 3 are instructions for Ephesus. So he's instructing them about prayer gatherings, about dealing with men and women who have been influenced by corrupt leaders. One of the questions is, should women teach? A great book on this is Dr. Lucy Pepiot. And it's Rediscovering Scripture for Scripture's Vision for Women. Rediscovering Scripture's women. Can't say it right either time. Rediscovering Scripture's Vision for Women. So go and read that book. It's fantastic. Chapter 4 through 6a is the instructions for Ephesus. And then 6b is another commission to Timothy. So I hope that you're reading, that you're enjoying. Email me with questions. Find us on YouTube, Spotify. Incidentally, I released a new worship album that I wanted to show you. It's called Lover of My Soul. Find it on all the streaming platforms. Worship with me. God bless you, and I'll see you next week.